Markets react positively as President-elect Donald Trump picks Scott Bessent as Treasury Secretary. Blue Sky is adding millions of users as people flee Elon Musk's X. And in a landmark agreement, nearly 200 nations have pledged $300 billion annually by 2035 to support developing countries in combating climate change. Hello, I'm Taiba Aydin with the latest business and finance news here on TRT World. Asian markets mostly rose on Monday, kicking off a week of economic data. It follows gains on Wall Street on Friday, with major indices closing at new record highs as President-elect Donald Trump nominated hedge fund manager Scott Bessent as Treasury Secretary. Bessent will be responsible for implementing Trump's pledges to cut taxes and raise tariffs, which he has repeatedly defended, despite accusations that they would upend relations with US allies and raise consumer prices. Meanwhile, investors are awaiting a slew of economic data this week, including China industrial data and India's third quarter GDP numbers. Let's get more on this now with Nadia Al-Bilasi. She's a senior market analyst at Equity Group. Thanks for being with us, Nadia. Now, traders have welcomed the news of Scott Bessent's appointment as Treasury Secretary, but what does he have to offer?
Hello, Taiba. Thank you for having me. So he's very crypto-friendly. He's the first crypto-friendly treasury to ever be appointed. So I think that's a good thing for the crypto world. I think markets will process that. We just need to give them time. I know that the dollar opened up marginally lower today, but I think that this is just temporary because he really promotes tax cuts. And I think he told Wall Street Journal that he will be focusing on tax cuts, especially as the US debt continues to rise drastically. So I think this is a good thing for corporations. I think that we will see the benefits to that with the tax cuts. The only problem is of the US inflation that could increase again, and this is the problem that we can have for 2025, where the easing cycle could be temporarily paused because of rising inflation as Trump takes the White House, and also all his appointees work towards one goal, and all their agenda is also can play in the favor of increasing inflation.
Right, as you say, there are fears that Trump's policies would ultimately raise inflation. What is the strategy behind this? How does the world's largest economy hope to combat this?
As Trump goes in the White House, he will plan a lot of his agenda has a lot to do with deregulation, and deregulation will promote some way or another inflation prices increasing again, as especially that costs for operating, for example, the operation costs for a corporation, they will decrease as the taxes go down, so the revenues will be boosted, and therefore it's just an economic cycle of inflation. However, I think that with deregulation and with tax cuts, I think all these things play in the favor of specific sectors in the US stock market. So I think that there will be a lot of cheer for that. We will be knowing more in the first quarter, but so far earnings have been doing so well even before Trump takes the White House. So I think that we will continue with this bull run till we get more clarity on what's to come further.
Looking at crypto now, Bitcoin's push towards that $100,000 mark seems to have lost steam. Can we expect it to reach that milestone this week? If not, when can we expect to see it?
I think definitely we're going to hit the 100K mark in the next month in December, maybe before year end. I'm not sure exactly when the timeline is for that, but it seems like Bitcoin's not really correlated with anything except pro-crypto friendly news. And I think that the appointment that we heard about of Scott Bessent today is actually really good for the crypto market. So it can happen at any time. And I think that there's so much risk appetite going into the crypto world, even crypto ETFs. They've seen the most inflows to ever come across in the past few months just because of pro-friendly crypto news. So I think that this is something that we can be bullish about in this month.
All right, Nadia Al-Bilasi, we will have to leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Taiba.
Now a quick look at some of the other top business stories from around the world. China's central bank has injected $123 billion into the banking system as Beijing steps up efforts to reduce debt risks and stimulate the struggling economy. The medium-term lending facility rate remained unchanged at 2%, in line with expectations. The People's Bank of China has recently come under pressure to stabilize the yuan following Donald Trump's victory in the US presidential election. Australian police have arrested 170 climate activists after a weekend protest briefly disrupted operations at the port of Newcastle. Demonstrators used kayaks and inflatable boats to block a coal ship, calling on the government to rule out new coal and gas mines. The port of Newcastle is the world's largest coal export port, with annual shipments of more than 100 million tonnes. Brazilian meat packers have reportedly stopped supplying meat to Carrefour. The interruption follows a statement by Carrefour's global CEO, who pledged to keep South American meat off the shelves in France in solidarity with French farmers. The decision has raised concerns about potential disruptions in the supply chain, and it has already impacted around 150 stores. And Finnair pilots are going on a 5-day strike from December 9th. About 300 flights will be cancelled, and around those dates, 33,000 passengers are expected to be affected by the disruption. In a digital world dominated by tech giants, Blue Sky stands out with its decentralized approach and user-focused strategy. While its competitors bank on advertising, Blue Sky seems to be carving a niche as a haven for creators and everyday users seeking autonomy. But will this strategy lead to lasting growth, or is it another fleeting moment in social media history? Blue Sky's user base has surged, with over 1 million new users signing up every day since the US elections. Despite the rise, it still lags behind X's 600 million users and Threads' 275 million. Blue Sky's current 21 million users hint at steady but gradual growth in the crowded social media landscape. Blue Sky lacks an advertising platform, limiting its appeal for brands. Key voices in marketing see potential but stress the absence of scale or ad offerings. Brands are reserving handles but holding back on active participation. Built on an open source framework, Blue Sky offers unparalleled content moderation flexibility. Users decide their feed algorithms and moderation filters, unlike corporate-controlled rivals. This model makes Blue Sky an attractive alternative for those seeking autonomy. Blue Sky courts creators frustrated with TikTok's shadow bans and Threads' rigid policies. Encouraging early Twitter-like engagement without ads attracts niche audiences. Successful growth depends on maintaining quality content and attracting more creators. For more, let's go to Mona Shtaya in Ramallah. She's an advocacy and digital communication expert. Good to have you on the program with us, Mona. Now, how does Blue Sky's decentralized approach impact user experience compared to the likes of Threads or X?
Thanks for having me this morning with you. First of all, as you started, Blue Sky has like the decentralized approach, which means that many people can, if they would like to, sign up using an account that they themselves owned, which means that they would have more freedom on their names and on their data, among other things. And this is coming after, as you mentioned, after or this increase in joining Blue Sky is coming after the U.S. elections, which is a clear demonstration of people's awareness of how Elon Musk has been backing the Trump's elections campaign, and I think this is a demonstration on people's awareness on what a new decentralized platform can offer to them. So when we are speaking about the decentralized platform, and if any of you have joined the platform, we can see that there are different things that are interesting. First of all, people are choosing what kind of people they want to follow and what kind of posts they want to see. And there has been like those two icons at the top of your news feed, where they were like mentioning that what you are following now, or what kind of the first 10 posts that you are liking, will be determining what kind of content you will see, which means more freedom for people to train the system on what they are interested in. If they are interested more in politics, more in business, more in whatever. And this is interesting. This is very clear approach to clarify for people why they are or why they will be seeing this kind of content later on. And this is, again, for people who have been using Twitter or X now for quite a long time, they can notice that Bluesky is the old version and more like open source version of Twitter in before Elon Musk took over, which is also nostalgic for users. And I think that's why so many people are using and are excited to be using Bluesky right now. But again, as you said, the whole like this jump in the number of users have been escalating since the U.S. elections, and we're gonna see in the next days how, or next few months, how this will take shape when people are more used to this platform. Especially those who are involved in the different fields. If we speak more about like the political content for people who have been censored on the different other platforms, since you mentioned Instagram, you mentioned also TikTok and X, there has been a lot of back and forth about the free speech policies between the absolute free speech on X, where people are also facing a lot of hate speech, incitement, and a lot of right-wing rise, and between the other platform where there is an over enforcement or censorship for certain kind of content. So
All right,
yeah, sorry.
We will have to leave it there, unfortunately. Thank you very much for your analysis.
Thank you.
Now, the COP29 climate summit in Azerbaijan concluded last week with 200 countries setting on an idea to help poorer nations cope with climate change and adopt clean energy. But as Neil Giardino reports, many climate vulnerable countries say the agreement doesn't go far enough.
More than 30 hours after it was supposed to end, delegates at the COP29 summit in Baku finally reached a deal. But after more than 2 weeks of rancorous debate and deadlock, it wasn't the ambitious funding deal many negotiators had come here to close.
This has been stage managed, and we are extremely, extremely disappointed with this incident.
You know, they throw text at us at the last minute, shove it down our throat. We accepted the text because we could not leave Baku without a text, but we're not satisfied whatsoever.
The gavel finally fell on a pledge to contribute $300 billion annually by 2035 to help poorer nations adapt to extreme weather and transition away from fossil fuels. But it fell far short of the $1.3 trillion poorer nations were seeking from wealthy ones, which are overwhelmingly responsible for global emissions contributing to climate change.
The amount that is proposed to be mobilized is abysmally poor. It's a paltry sum. It is not something that will enable conducive climate action that is necessary for the survival of our country and for the growth of our people, their livelihoods. And I'm sorry to say that we cannot accept it.
Ahead of the deal, with tensions at a peak, climate protesters jeered at U.S. climate envoy John Podesta as he departed the meeting. Activists accused the U.S., one of the largest greenhouse gas emitters, of not paying its fair share.
What do we want?
The financing gap comes as climate experts warn that 2024 is guaranteed to be the hottest year on record, and that global average temperatures are likely to rise 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels, exacerbating heat waves, historic floods, and drought. For some delegations, the final amount, 3 times higher than the $100 billion a year pledge from 2009 set to expire, was a starting point.
We didn't achieve everything that we wanted, but we achieved something. It will have been disastrous if we did not get anything.
The money which wealthy nations are obligated to pay to vulnerable countries under the 2015 Paris Agreement will help economies transition towards clean energy and pay for damages inflicted by climate change. Neil Giardino, TRT World.
Following that summit, representatives from over 170 countries descended on Busan in South Korea for UN-brokered talks aimed at tackling the global crisis of plastic pollution. To show what a worldwide problem this is becoming, our correspondent Obaida Hito has this story from the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where plastic waste is causing power cuts and disrupting businesses.
It might look like these plastic bottles have been collected and assembled for recycling. But these hundreds of bottles, jerry cans, and other debris are all waste. And they are choking the life out of the Ruzizi hydroelectric dam, situated at the southern end of Lake Kivu, while causing endless disruption all around, particularly at the National Electricity Company.
This waste practically blocks the water. Water has difficulty entering the forced conduits to provide the pressure and speed required for the machines. During this time, we reach our limit. We are forced to shut down the machines and start removing the waste, clearing the grates. And when we stop the machines, power outages also occur.
Here we have 4 machines, and together these 4 machines produce a total of 29.8 megawatts. This waste materials affects all 4 machines at once. That's why the cleaning operation for the grates and machines take around 6 to 7 hours. On each machine, we might spend around 2.5 hours, or 2 hours if we work faster and there is not too much trash.
And local businesses have not been spared either.
Our bosses are pressing us because of delays in completing their orders, and we don't know what to do. The workshop is here, but we can't do any welding when there is no power. People tell us the power is out because of plastic bottles, but we don't know what to do about these bottles. If only there were a way to clear out these bottles so we could have electricity.
Divers often have to clean the bottom of the river to prevent turbines from becoming blocked up by waste accumulating at a depth of 14 meters.
We urge the population to monitor and properly manage household waste, because if they leave this waste lying in the street, in the gutters, it ends up at the Ruzizi Dam, and this creates a lot of difficulties for us.
But the waste poses an even greater danger to people's health and the environment here. Obaida Hito, TRT World.
Turkey has put its energy investments into full gear, planning to increase its drilling operations next year. With output growing in crude oil production, the country has also diversified its investments into other energy sources to become more self-reliant. Emre Boz has the details.
Digging deeper to discover more. Turkey is expanding its energy production and output. Authorities are looking to grow its number of drilling operations to 270 in 2025. There's been an upward trend in oil production in Turkey since the beginning of the year. The country reached an all-time high of 107,000 barrels per day in August. This is largely thanks to new oil discoveries in its southeast region of Gabar. And the country is not just looking into fossil fuels, it's expanding into alternative energy sources, including renewables. Turkey is planning on quadrupling its investments into renewable energies to $80 billion by 2035. That's one step closer to being more self-reliant on its own energy resources. And that's what makes events like this at the Istanbul Energy Forum so important as the nation moves towards this goal. Ministers and business leaders from all around the world gathered here to discuss ways on expanding and diversifying various energy resources well into the future.
Today, by 2023, 55% of our installed power and 42% of our power generation comes from renewables. And now we have even more ambitious targets with the recent 2035 roadmap declared by the Ministry of Energy. Now our target for wind and solar energy is 120 gigawatts.
Turkey has also set its sights on nuclear investments to better secure its energy needs. The Akkuyu nuclear power plant will be the country's first. It is currently the world's largest nuclear power project. Planned to be online by 2028, it's expected to generate 10% of Turkey's electricity.
We are one of the first Turkish companies working at Turkey's nuclear power plant. What have we been able to achieve so far? Many Turkish engineers are working within our organization, and Turkish workers are actively participating in the system. We are striving for Turkish companies to gain capabilities in nuclear technology, and we are striving to support localization policies as much as we can.
With such major projects in the works, the country is preparing to be an energy powerhouse in the region. Emre Boz, TRT World.
Opportunistic land grabbers are preying on small-scale rural farmers in Zambia. Traditionally, this group relied on a farmer support program to access fertilizer, seeds and sometimes pesticides at a minimal cost. But drought has decimated many farms, leaving some unable to pay the $15 a month fee, which is where the opportunists come in. Fungisai Maronga reports from Lusaka.
Agnes Lubunde, a local farmer working tirelessly to provide for her family, says the drought has deeply affected many like her. She's one of many scrambling to gather the funds needed for vital inputs, the supplies needed for farming. What was meant to support farmers as they prepare for the season has turned into a significant challenge, forcing many to make tough sacrifices just to stay afloat.
Many of us have struggled during this drought, and we have no choice but to find ways to pay for the farming inputs. We often join groups to buy in bulk, but for others, the only option is to sell a portion of their land just to make enough to support their families and contribute to the program.
Zambia has endured a prolonged drought for several years, with some regions experiencing a 50% drop in rainfall. This has devastated farmers, leaving them with failed crops and food insecurity, making it increasingly difficult to recover and plan for future seasons.
The lack of rain has greatly affected our source of income, so we are unable to contribute to the initiative. Even finding work has become difficult, as more established farmers are not hiring. We have nowhere else to turn for money.
Agnes and Killian are just two of the many farmers in rural areas caught in this scramble for farming supplies. Agricultural experts encourage farmers to join small associations to protect themselves from opportunists attempting to take advantage of their needs.
It is believed that when you are alone, you are easily defeated. But when you are in a team or in a group or cooperative, there is some kind of protection. So that anticipation is not really seen in cooperatives. And that's how you see our farmers complain bitterly. Even in cooperatives, they are not well protected.
Zambia's severe dry spell has left small-scale farmers with poor yields, leading to food insecurity and financial strain as they struggle to afford essential farming inputs. While efforts are underway to build farmers' resilience beyond hand-to-mouth survival, many are left with no choice but to sell their land to access government support, leaving them vulnerable to exploitation. Fungisai Maronga, TRT World, Lusaka, Zambia.
Well, that's all your business news for now. Thanks for watching.